Okay, we are here at the IBC convention and we are going to do a mock judging of a class of Longfin red half-moon single-tail males here. So this is a mock judging, a training video. We have here, yes, and black, sorry. So here we have Joe Cooper. Joe? Hello.
Hello.
And we have Kurt Billmeyer, longtime IBC judges. And they're going to demonstrate how they would approach judging this class. So let's pan really quickly to all of the fish that are in this class. So this is before we remove the cards. You can see that it's very difficult to see what the form of a fish is before you remove the cards, okay? So we have how many fish? 9 fish?
10.
10 fish that we're going to judge today. Okay, so if you guys could explain your thought process as judges as you approach this class.
Okay, right now we're pulling the cards to get the fish excitable and ready to start flaring.
Okay. What's the first thing that you look for?
I look for fish that don't belong here. So that would be if for some reason there was a short fin red in here.
Okay. Or there's a crown tail right next to it. If there's a crown tail in there.
Got it.
Okay, that would be a fish we would remove.
This one just happens to be in the next position.
So it was perfect to have that as an example.
Does that happen often?
No. Occasionally you'll get something that has to be moved where the breeder sent the fish into the show and they had it listed as a wrong class.
Okay.
So you have to go through and find the fish that doesn't belong and move it where it does belong.
Okay, so that's called reclassing.
Correct.
Okay. So now
we're going to go through and we're going to look for obvious faults, like do they have too much color in them? A fish that's more multi than a red.
okay. So looking at those severe and major faults. So we judge based on the least faults system. We have an ideal in mind and also a categorized list of faults in the standard. And those faults are categorized as slight, minor, major, and severe. The more faults a fish has, then the less likely it's going to end up in the top 3, right?
Yep. Usually the fish that are the easiest to tell as far as that they aren't going to be up to standard to place is fish that have damaged themselves in shipping or damaged themselves in the beanies here. You know, larger splits, tears, or burning the edges of the fins.
Okay.
So you go through and you look for that.
And those are called condition faults.
Condition faults, yeah.
So Kurt, what are we going to do with this one black? Does he have the finnage and the form to compete with these against these reds? We're not competing red to black, but does he have what it takes to be a good black fish? I see a lot of iridescence on his body.
Yes.
His fins have some iridescence. His color in the fins is not as dense as I would like it to be.
Okay.
So I would pull him down.
Okay.
So often during judging, judges move around the fish, and once they've determined that a fish is no longer in the running, they will move them. So see, Joe's moved it down to the bottom there, and they will continue to evaluate the others.
This is condition faulted, where you can see the tears in the bottom of the anal fin. It's not going to compete against the ones who don't have that, and this is definitely obvious. So we'll bring this one down.
So these guys are still in consideration. Judges will always refer back to the fish they've pulled, but for that initial cut, they're looking for those really, again, major and severe faults. What are some common major and severe faults for red and black?
Iridescence in the body for either.
And that's like this, right? This looks like, if you shine a light on this blackfish, that's a lot of blue iridescence on black.
You'll also get iridescence on the bodies or the fins of the reds. I'm trying to find an obvious one. They did a pretty good job of sending in fish that don't have a lot of iridescence, but you'd look for it in the scalation in the body. You can see there's a little bit there, iridescence on the
peduncle, or
the caudal.
Caudal. And you also have areas of no color on that one. So clear edges. Here's another one that has the iridescence at the caudal peduncle.
Okay.
And it's pretty obvious there. So those are faults you could remove it on.
You want to pull this guy down with the clear edges?
Yes.
Okay. And clear edges, is that like a minor, major fault, slight fault?
Most color faults are all minor, unless it's a really overabundance of it. I mean, a lot of times with reds, you'll see reds on the internet that have a lot of spotting, iridescent spotting in the body. These don't really have it. They're all pretty good specimens as far as the general color of the fish.
Okay, so it depends on how much of that color fault
Right.
they
Correct.
have.
Now this guy has a lot of clear
Okay.
in the edges of his caudal. So he's got, looks like he has great finish, but because of his color, we're going to pull him down.
And so you're judging color and form simultaneously.
Yes.
Yeah.
And deportment. Do you guys want to talk a little bit about deportment while these guys are going?
Well, they're all deporting fairly well. I mean, if they were sitting on the bottom, we would take a straw and stir him up to get him off the bottom. But they're all deporting fairly well.
Okay.
Which is usually a common trait with reds. Usually you don't have reds that sit around much, but you'll have, the example would be, you might have a really great fish finnage-wise, but he won't get up off the bottom, so you can't judge him. He's got to show you what he's got, or he can't possibly place.
So we can use various aids, for instance, a mirror.
Okay, so you have a
Try
mirror.
to let them see. If they won't react to the guy next to them, maybe they will react to themselves.
Okay.
So
Well, he's deporting really well,
Yeah.
though. Yeah.
And
So
then,
they're all
some
good.
of them, perhaps what they have conditioning of what they see at home. An example would be that we had a bluefish yesterday, and he didn't flare to a steel or a green, but you put a red next to him, and boom.
Okay, so keep going, keep judging.
So this guy, Kurt, he's got some clear spots on his caudal as well. So I want to take him down.
Yep.
His body's a little darker than I would like to see.
Okay.
He's got more of a bicolor body.
So with going back to the black, this guy had so much iridescence on his body, doesn't have it on his head, but if the fish had more iridescence on his head, he could be almost a bicolor.
And be reclassed into a patterned class.
Correct.
But this is a solid class.
Correct.
Correct.
Yeah. You want to frequently go back to what the class name is, always, because you're looking for the ideal of that particular class.
Now the other thing we start looking for is general fin shape. As an example, if the like this one here, if the anal fin isn't square, isn't full, and you can see like the way that it's holding itself, the gap between the fins. That's going to be a fish that's not competing against the rest of them.
Yeah, we want a fish that will fit in that imaginary circle.
Got it. Okay, so we're down to 4 out of 10, I think? 4 out of 10.
4 out of 10.
So we're also, now we're looking for things like curling ventrals, missing ventrals, or one shorter than the other. This guy is kind of interesting in the sense that he has got really small pectorals.
Oh, really?
Compared to some of these other guys.
Uh-huh.
I mean, look at, I don't know if you can get this guy's.
Okay.
Compared to, say, this one. To me, his pectorals are smaller than what I would want them to be. Do you see that?
Yeah.
So it's important to take into account all of the fins, not
Correct.
just the caudal, not just the dorsal and the anal, but how do they work in harmony with one another? Is the fish symmetrical, including those pectoral fins too?
Correct. I mean, that's a minor fault, but it could be the deciding factor between two fish.
Yes. Just like the Best of Show judging the other day, it was just a curled ventral that stopped that one fish, right?
Yep.
So.
This guy over here is.
So another thing we run into is if you are judging a large class for a while, they start to get tired. And these guys have already been judged yesterday during our 5-hour judging marathon yesterday. And so you try to minimize the time they're looking at one another as much as possible in order to preserve the fish's energy. But it also comes down to a lot of at-home training before the fish comes to the show. You really got to train your show fish to be able to withstand judging.
I'm going to card these fish for a little while so that Kurt and I can look at this one. He's got 2 different shaped ventrals. His dorsal rolls over. I don't think he's competitive with the other ones. I mean, there may be one down here that
Is more competitive
Yeah.
and can come back up.
he's got, and of course, he's kind of run out of gas right now. So I want to pull him down.
Yeah.
Okay.
So again, these are the fish. We constantly revisit them, okay? But they have been eliminated for now. But it's important for the judge to go back to these fish constantly as well, and also to keep them carded so that they're fresh for reconsideration. Okay, so we have top 3 now, it appears.
Yes.
Sorry. Hold on, there's some glare that I can't get rid of. Sorry. Can we cover? There we go. Never ideal recording conditions.
Well, put your flashlight on. This guy's got a much darker body than, for instance, this guy in the middle. And this is where reds have a dark underlayer, and some of them have no dark underlayer. So this guy's got more dark than this one, and so that's something you have to take into consideration too.
So basically when you get down to your last 3 that you're looking at, what you're looking at is what sets the top fish aside, what makes it the fish that's going to win the class. And
So
as far as the red color, the one in the center has got the best color of the group. It has the least amount of iridescence. and when he flares, he makes that perfect symmetrical circle. So that's, even though it's a little smaller than the one on the left and the one on the right, it's still, in my opinion, the top fish. So we'll move him over and card him, because we know he's still got to be available for best of variety judging, and see which of these two is going to be the one that.
Okay, and you bring up an important point about size. All things being equal, the larger fish wins, right? But that's with all things being equal.
Yes, yeah. There's very few things that are equal.
Exactly. Wow, look at this guy.
Many times you'll have a situation where, boy, he really doesn't like him. See, this card him up again. The best way to describe it is with the class that we did yesterday. A breeder asked the question of why her little fish that was great, a great fish, but was small, why it lost to a bigger fish that she didn't feel was of the same quality of finnage. And judging that all equal, you want to. You look at the larger fish, and at its age, it's still the better fish today. A month from now, that smaller fish may grow up much closer to the size of the fish that won, and then it would be the fish that would win. You know, it all depends on sometimes the timing of that fish being sent to a show.
Correct.
And timing with half-moons, longfin half-moons, is particularly important, right?
Correct.
These guys?
Because, well, as Kurt said, one may be bigger now than the smaller one that's nice, but by the time the smaller one gets up to a better size, this one's going to be probably past its prime. And not a good show fish.
There is a window of time that those fish are good show fish. A good example would be you see something that's a very large fish, and you could see it was a fish that, you know, maybe at the last show it was phenomenal. And now at this show, it's older and it's like dragging the drapes behind it. It can't handle all the finnage it's got.
Got it.
Okay, Kurt, is there any fish down here that we want to reconsider?
Sorry. Okay, so the judges are reviewing the fish that they pulled earlier and comparing them to their top three while they let the top three rest. When you judge large classes, this is a really good
It's
practice.
an even darker body than the one that we had.
What about this one?
Well, I'll tell you what I like about this one is it's not bad, but the problem is the shape of the anal on that one.
Okay. Was this the one that?
I think this is the one that had the little bit of fin burn.
Fin burn?
Yeah, you know, the anal fin, probably from sitting in its beanie.
Oh, a little ruffling, yeah. Got
Yeah.
some curled rays.
Okay.
Bypass the black, because we already know why we didn't like the black.
And both of these have.
And this is a red and black class, so they're supposed to be there, yeah.
I really don't see anybody I want to bring back up compared to what we have up there.
Okay, I
Okay.
agree.
So let's come back to the top three.
And really, we're going back to the second and third choices for second and third, because we've already pretty much picked the one as the best fish.
And just letting that one rest in case it goes on to best variety.
Yes.
So what?
This one's got massive fins.
Yes.
He's having a little trouble keeping his dorsal
Oh, yeah.
Got a
erect.
bit of a curl at the top.
And he has a little bit of iridescence it's fairly obvious there.
This guy,
But fin shape on his is real good.
yeah, the quantity, the volume. This guy, and again, he's a little bit smaller, so he's got smaller fins, but he's able to hold all his fins erect.
Yes.
It's not wearing out.
Yeah.
So for these top 3 fish, do you want to go through their faults kind of line by line?
Yes.
And then place them?
So we decided this fellow is going to be number 1. So now we're down to 2 and 3. And
Yeah, but why is he number 1?
Best color, the way he holds his shape, the fact that his dorsal isn't curling over.
Hi, Joe.
A combination of the things is what made him the best fish.
Okay, so if he would open up, then we would see.
If he would open up, you'll see the nice symmetry, the fact that there aren't color flaws like the others have. I mean, you can see that the red color is extending all the way to the edges of the fish.
Okay, there we go. Come on, Betty. So Joe's using a mirror to try and get him to flare one more time.
And he's not really wanting to be confused.
Well, let's talk about the guy to the right, because he's flaring a lot in the video.
Yes, we already mentioned that he's got a lot of volume to his fingers, which is making it a little difficult for him to hold it up. He has a small split in the anal fin. He has some iridescence at the collar peduncle.
so I have put 2 little dots on my finger, which looks like
Joe
another.
Cooper method.
Well, I got that from Rajiv. But now the guy, he's facing this guy, and he's got another fish coming up on his side.
Okay.
So he's a little more alert.
Yeah.
But you can see the better color. He's still a little worn out from.
Well, he did all the best of show judging yesterday too. So this fish is normally far more aggressive than this, but we are filming after judging today, so that is why.
So
This fish
here
is so tired.
we're getting a pretty good picture of this guy in the center.
Yeah.
He's got some somewhat clear in his dorsal that I'm not real crazy about. I'd like to see it's red, but it's not as intense as his other fins.
Okay. And even here, when he's not in full flare, you can see that beautiful straight edges on the outside of the caudal too, on the one on the left, compared to the roughness of the one on the right.
Correct.
All right, let's carve him back up.
Okay. So now we're deciding second and third, right?
Of these fish, this isn't the actual second and third of the
No.
class.
No, we just grabbed random fish for this video.
Feel how hot it is. The sensor can only handle so many minutes of filming before. Because it's not a. Yeah, it's just not meant for shooting constant video.
Can I borrow your manly read for a while?
So just looking at these two, I would go second on this one and third. Third because there's a little bit of curling and a little bit of the clear.
And there's a small split in the anal. It has more iridescence than the second place one.
Okay.
The other thing you do look for in reds, we don't seem to have the problem in these reds that we've looked at, is black edging around the fins. That's also a fault.
Okay.
But these aren't showing it, so we can't show you.
Can you shine a light on them? They're kind of dark now for some reason. I think it got overcast outside. There we go.
And again, look at the symmetry of this fish.
So what's your verdict?
First, second, and then third.
Okay. So first,
is the lab
First,
the
second, third.
Okay. Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for going through another grueling, not grueling, but another session of judging after doing the grueling session of judging yesterday. So thank you guys. Thanks, Kurt. Thanks, Joe.